Gabrielle, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Every Wednesday, we have the privilege of coming to your home to really share pertinent information about money, life, and everything else. We say on Let's Talk Money with Friends that money encompasses everything. And we love to talk about everything, but especially for those of us who have had the opportunity to be in the tax preparation industry, we really love to really have conversation about taxation during times like this, because this is, as you all know, this is the tax season. The IRS opened up the season on the 23rd of January, and they're expecting, I think the expectation is 168 million individual tax returns are expected to be filed. 168 million, right? So it's gonna be a lot, and that's gonna be your taxes, your tax return and my tax return and everybody else's, who is working, who is a US citizen, a resident. You have to file taxes. So without further ado, I wanna say that tonight we wanted to have this conversation with one of our tax experts, my friend, John Warren, because I know that this time brings a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress for many families. And we say all the time, John, that there's no need to be stressed if you do the right thing. If there are best practices that you can use to really help you go through the season without any stress. So this is what we're going to talk about now. So before we get started with our line of questions and comments, why don't I give John an opportunity to introduce himself again? He's been on the show, and we'll get started with our conversation. Now, before I do that, remember, this is a live show. Please tag, share, let your friends know that we are here. The information that we're gonna share tonight can really save them a lot of money, just like it's gonna save you a lot of money and a lot of headache. So definitely, you wanna tag, share, make a comment, ask questions as you wish. Thank you so much. John, why don't you say hello and welcome to the show again.
Well, thanks, Gabrielle. It's always fun to get together with you, and it's a lot of fun to talk about taxes. This is what we do.
I know.
I'm an enrolled agent. I have a practice in West Medford. I've been involved in the tax industry for decades, and I think it's probably a good time to talk about the enrolled agent function.
Yeah, for decades, huh? You don't look
that,
like you're more than 25, John. You said decades.
Yeah.
That's a long time. I know I met you a decade, actually over 10 years ago. So yeah, it's been a while since you've been doing this. So that's why
if there's anyone in between careers or think they're interested in taxes, they should look into the tax industry. There aren't many professions where you can pick your own clients, set your own hours, decide what days to work.
Yeah.
You really set your own working conditions. It's a phenomenal industry.
Yeah.
There's a great collaboration of enrolled agents in Massachusetts. You need not be a specialist and knowledgeable of all aspects of taxes. People develop their own niches. Some specialize in foreign tax. Some specialize in long-distance truckers or pilots. Some specialize in public safety, firefighters and police officers. So some specialize in small businesses and work business taxes.
Yeah. I know. I always say on this show that money encompasses everything. But to tell the truth, I think when it comes to taxation, my gosh, every single transaction that you are doing has a tax consequence. So it's very important to be able to work with professionals who understand the tax law, who understand what it takes to do it right, so that you don't need to have the anxiety that your average taxpayer would have usually have during this time of the year, right?
Yeah,
So
you're right.
I said,
So,
working with professionals. Why don't you tell us, John? I know my name on Facebook, I have Gabrielle Renee EA. And many times folks have asked me, are you an executive assistant or are you something else? The EA designation is not something that is very familiar to everybody, including our elected officials. That's why the Mass Society of Enrolled Agents, every year we were flying, right, to Washington to sensitize, to let elected officials know about our designation so that they can support us with legislations that make sense. So why don't you tell the folks who are watching here tonight, what is an EA? What is an enroll agent? An enroll agent.
so an enrolled agent is someone who has passed a series of exams on IRS taxation. It is the only federal tax credential issued by the US Treasury with unlimited tax practice rights. EAs are live, breathe, eat, sleep, love tax. They're not attorneys, they can't practice law. Enrolled agents aren't CPAs, they can't audit books or certify documents for a mortgage loan. They are America's tax experts.
Yeah.
They perform CPR on tax matters. That's consultation, where they're preparing for next year. There are energy credits available for 2023 that we're going to be talking about pretty soon. You know, there's strategies about how to maximize your energy credit. They work on matters of preparation. That's filing your tax return and making sure that it's filed properly. And then for those who have compliance problems or filing errors, there is the matter of representation. And that is straightening out correspondence and audit, collection issues that someone comes in and can't afford to pay the tax that they owe. There's matters of appeals. The taxpayer does not have to accept the decision of the IRS. They can protest it if they have proper grounds to do so. So that's where enrolled agents assist attorneys and CPAs with tax issues.
I know the enroll agent license. I took that in 2009, and it's a grueling test, 3-part test. I remember 9 hours because they're each 3 hours. And being an overachiever, I think I did that in 1 week. I was trying to get it done because I wanted to get it over with. But at the end of the day, it takes a lot to have that designation. And once you have it, you want to protect it. That's why, again, we do the CPR. I love that. You know, the CPR, the tax consultation, preparation, and representation. Many times, John, we have folks come to us, to tax professionals, and they're like, you know, I want you to do this for me. I want you to help me either reduce my tax liability, or I want you to help me make money. So because of such commitment to this license, because of all the hard work that was done, what do you say? I mean, like, do you take on everybody who comes to you who wants to do it a certain way that is not best practice for you?
No. I work too hard to establish my reputation and you know, get my credential. Again, with tax, there's a right way and a wrong way. There are fraudulent preparers out there. If someone decides, if you decide to pay somebody to prepare your tax return, be choosy. Make sure that you have a credentialed preparer, someone who belongs to a national tax professional organization, someone who's taking tax education courses throughout the year, someone who's available in the summer and winter months. Because this, you want to review your tax return. You want to understand why it's the way it is. You're also going to have questions about changes in tax laws, changes in your personal situation. You know, you had talked about the financial planning, taxes being the keystone to financial success. You know, if you're self-employed, you need to save for your retirement plan. If you get a W-2, do you want a refund? Is that really in your best financial interest? Some people prefer a large refund. They use the government as a savings plan. An extra $100 a week in a paycheck would be Celtic tickets and Chinese food. They spend it. Well, an extra $100 a week is a $5,000 refund. Now they can go to Aruba or spend it on something else, or maybe even save it.
So in essence, you're saying like, once you have, because that designation, the EA, which allow us to do consultation work, preparation work, and representation work. Those are three different segments, right?
Yes.
Anytime
yes.
you have folks come in and you're doing preparation for them, basically you're doing a tax return for them, and now they're called by the IRS for an audit. They're panicking and they're like, oh, you did my tax, so therefore you get to do the representation for free. It doesn't happen like that, because we have to do three different separate work: representation, preparation, and consultation. So why are these things separated? Because let's go to the idea of the fact that, no, we have the taxes in here, and we know a lot of people, again, are panicking. What can somebody do, someone who's watching right now, do in order for them to alleviate some of the panic that they are experiencing now and in the future? How can they situate themselves so that they don't have to be stressed every year?
I think the stress is the unknown. And there are a number of clients who check in with me in the summer and early fall with their pay stubs or their business records to make sure that their withholding or estimated taxes are realistic. 2 years ago, a newborn was a $5,000 tax credit. In 2022, a newborn in 2022 is a $2,000 tax credit. You know, there have been some wild changes year to year in taxes. Someone may think they can buy a new car and they're going to get a $7,500 tax credit. In 2023, you don't get that tax credit until you file your 2023 tax return, which is in the winter of 2024. And that might create a cash flow problem. So that, I think, is where the stress is in taxes, when someone comes in saying, I don't know if I'm going to get a refund or I think I owe a lot. I'm really upset or worried. With the consultation, the tax planning aspect that enrolled agents can provide, we can eliminate the unknown and we can quantify your tax status before you file your tax return.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the ways to alleviate some of the anxiety is actually getting ready. The preparation work that you have to do in terms of like pulling all your documents together, organizing them, and having them be ready, completely ready for your tax professional to work on. Yeah, how important is it, record keeping? How important is that? And what encouragement, or what word of encouragement would you like to let everybody know? Because I know part of the reasons why so many have had to deal with audit is because they're coming to you as their tax preparer to do a tax return, but they had 10 jobs last year, or they ran 5 businesses, but they only have records for a few of them, not everything. How important is record keeping if you are either self-employed or an employee or someone who's gonna need to file a tax return?
Well, it's codified that there is no tax deduction if there's no documentation.
Thank you.
The charitable receipt deduction is available to people who have canceled checks, and a letter from the charity documenting that the donation was made on a certain date for a certain amount and no goods and services were received.
Correct.
If you're donating property, non-cash donations, clothing, books, and furniture, each item has to be separately listed, and the fair market value of that item on the date of the donation has to be part of that receipt. That sounds like a lot of work. Well, some people can take a picture with their iPhone and use that as the documentation of what was given, but they're still going to have to independently list the value of the clothing that was donated. I tell people, list how many jeans, what kind of shape they were in, how many shirts, were they polo shirts, were they silk blouses? And that detail is what's necessary just for a charitable donation.
Yeah.
The deduction for W-2 workers for unreimbursed business expenses has been suspended until 2026. If you're a W-2 employee, you get no work from home, union dues, or
Unfortunately, because so many people are working from home now.
Yeah.
It's an unfortunate situation.
This another person doing the same work as an independent contractor or self-employed person gets all of those deductions.
Correct.
If they have the proper documentation. What the IRS wants is they want proof of payment, proof you paid it, and they want proof of the purchase. So a QuickBooks, an American Express credit card, a bank statement is not enough by itself, nor is just printing out your Amazon account. Again, it's easy to do the right thing if you know what you're supposed to do. And this is, again, part of the tax planning consultation feature where you want to make sure your tax preparer is available to answer your questions. Should you start to go into business for yourself? A lot of people ask me, I'm going to start my business. I want to be an LLC. My response is, well, we need to sit down and talk about why you want to be an LLC. And does that really help you? In Massachusetts, it's $500 every year to renew your LLC license. Are you sure you're going to make that much money running your business? Maybe we should start slower and start smaller.
I think regardless of where you're starting though, and how you're starting, it's very important to understand that when you're in business, although you might think that you're in business for yourself and by yourself, but you're really not by yourself, because you're gonna have tax ramification. You're gonna have to deal with tax, having to pay taxes or having to file a tax return. Maybe your income is not subject to taxation because it's below the threshold. But if it's gonna be subject to taxation, you're gonna have to file taxes. And again, I love it that you said no documentations, no deductions. Because again, going back to professionals who do have licenses, who wanna keep their licenses for the long haul, because we talked about it earlier that, you know, taxation is one of the professions that you can be in until, you know, forever. Nobody's gonna push you out as long as you have the bandwidth and the, you know, withal to compute numbers and really have a conversation with a client. You can do this for a long time. So nobody is gonna invest money in a credential and have it be taken away from them because a client or a taxpayer refuses to do what's right, right, John? So it's very
Yeah.
important. And we pound in that because we know that folks are coming to you, they're coming to us saying like, oh, I mean, I have anxiety, I don't like the tax season, can you please do everything? And they want to dump everything, saying like, you are responsible to be my bookkeeper that I wasn't for the entire year. You are responsible to figure it out. You are responsible to estimate everything, when the truth of the matter is estimation is not the way to go. We need substantiation. Substantiation is documentation, correct?
Yeah, so that's one of the questions that someone has when they want to start their own business. What do I need to keep for records?
Mhm.
The other thing is that if you are working a W-2 job and you're thinking of starting your own business, you have to remember that your self-employment income is going to be taxed at your marginal tax rate. That could be 22%, plus a 15% self-employment tax and a 5% Massachusetts state income tax. Before you're done, almost half of your profit is going to be taxes. So that tax planning exercise is really important so that you set aside money to pay the taxes, but also so that you set your prices so you have the right kind of profit. If you think you're working for $30 an hour, you could be working for $15 an hour, and that's the minimum wage.
Correct. Yeah, definitely. So not only is it important to keep documentations and to really think deep before you leap, in terms of like think very deep before you make a decision to become self-employed, or before you make any decision regarding your tax return. It's so important to know that not everybody, we were talking about it offline. I know that there's a scripture that says, give to Caesar what's for Caesar and to God what is for God. Many times folks will say, am I supposed to pay taxes, or am I supposed to file taxes? I didn't make that much money. What do you say about that, John, when someone comes to you and say, am I supposed to file my tax return? I didn't make that much money this year.
Well, so you never get a straight answer when you ask a tax question.
It depends.
It all depends. Yeah, that's right.
That's what I learned in school, right?
Yeah.
Professors, it depends. Yes.
So it really depends on what generated the income.
Correct.
If it's capital gains, that's profit from the sale of stock or property. You could have $40,000 of capital gains and not pay any federal tax at all.
Correct.
If that was your only income. Social Security, in some cases, it's not taxed at all. Some cases, half of it's taxed. In some cases, 85% of it's taxed. It all depends on your tax situation. To get to the question you're asking me, if someone has $1,000 of 1099 income, they owe taxes.
Yeah.
They owe the self-employment tax. If someone has $4,000 of W-2 taxes, they might not need to file because they don't owe taxes, but they might want to file because they could be eligible for the earned income credit if they're a single person without any children. They may have taxes withheld from their paycheck, and they want that refunded to them.
Correct.
Sometimes people want to file a tax return to get refundable tax credits. There's a college tuition credit. There's a child tax credit. There's a premium tax credit for your health insurance if you bought health insurance through the Health Connector. There's a family credit. So these are all reasons to file, not because you owe money and have to pay taxes. It's because the government has money and wants to send you money to you.
Yeah, and even recently, during COVID, with the stimulus checks that were being sent, those who had tax returns filed, even if it was a zero tax return, it was much easier for them to get their direct deposit than someone who had not done that. So let's go back, John, to something that you mentioned. Like, I know for me, when someone said, do I have to pay taxes? And I'm like, it depends. What type of taxes are you referring to? Because we have estate tax, we have income tax, we have, sales tax, we have employment taxes. There's so many different types of taxes that you have to pay. So, but for someone who's self-employed, I know those are the people that we typically see. Self-employed, someone who's an independent contractor, like an Uber driver, or someone who has a business, a babysitting business or a daycare, and they're making money throughout the year. They forgot to do estimated payments, right? Meaning like the quarterly payments that you're supposed to do to help you have the peace of mind at the end of the year and not have to be stressed out about a large check, having to send back a large check. Now, usually those folks will come and say, do I have to pay taxes? So can we re-emphasize the difference between employment taxes and income taxes?
Yeah, the self-employed person is, like you said, paying income taxes and self-employment taxes. So a tax return actually has multiple taxes that someone is paying. There's something called the net investment income tax for high income earners on their dividends, interest, and capital gains. There's a Medicare wage surcharge tax for high income earners that have a lot of W-2 money. There also is a tax when you take money out of a retirement plan before you're age 59 and a half, the early distribution tax. That's 10% of the money that you took out of a 401k or an IRA. So you could have taken $2,000 too early. You owe $200 in the early distribution tax. So you're right. It all depends.
It all depends. So it's very important. Again, if you're self-employed, we might say to you, oh, you know what? You don't owe any income tax. No income taxes this year because your income was below the threshold for taxes, your total income. But employment taxes, you will have to pay that if you had a net profit on your business, right? If you're showing a net profit, you will have to deal with having to pay Social Security and Medicaid, correct?
And here's an example of how a tax question, a simple tax question, can get a dangerous answer. Now, the phone rang this morning and I answered it. And the person said, do I have to file a tax return if my father gave me money? And I said, well, how much did your father give you? And he said, he gave me $80,000. I said, oh. I said, is your father an American citizen, a US citizen? And he's not. He's located in a foreign country. He was in Poland. And if you receive a gift from someone who was not a US resident and not located in the US, there is tax reporting required. If you receive a gift from a US citizen, the receiver of the gift doesn't need to report that as income. The giver has some reporting requirements. If they give more than $17,000 in 2023 to somebody, the receiver doesn't. So I would say that when you are asking a tax question, make sure I think it's wise to sit down with someone and take a while to explain the whole situation. And a simple text or an email is probably going to be insufficient. The person receiving the question may have a different context or perspective on what you're asking.
Correct.
And although they're giving the right answer, it may not be the right answer for your situation. So be careful when asking for tax advice.
Yeah, going again to the idea of tax professionals doing CPR, consultation, preparation, and representation. Many times you get a call. I have a quick question about my tax. A quick. I remember a professor a long time ago told me, everything that sounds quick to you took me 4 years to learn. A quick question. I want a quick question for a quick answer, not realizing that there's no such thing as a quick question when it comes to this type of a work, tax filing or tax law. it all depends. Many times we have to do research in order for us to really give you the right, help you take the right position. That's what it is. You're taking a position on your tax return. We have to do research in order for you to be able to make, for you or your preparer to do the right thing, to take the right position. Because if you do not take the right position, that's when you ended up with a tax audit. And then now you have to hire somebody to do representation work, and that's going to cost you more money. Again, nothing is easy. If you go to a tax preparer who tells you everything is easy, actually recently I was talking to somebody about tax preparation, and she said, she or he, I forgot who it was, said that you're just filling out a form, right? Are we just filling out a form, John?
Well,
The 1040 is just a form we're filling out. Anybody can do that?
It's not that simple because it really depends. There's different ways to treat income. There's different options. And, a simple question, when's the last day to file your taxes? Well, everyone thinks April 15th. This year, April 15th comes on April 18th. Unless you're filing a partnership or an S Corp return, they're due on March 15th.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a change over the last couple of years. And if you're filing for a nonprofit, that's due on May 15th. The penalties for filing a late nonprofit is $20 per day.
Mm.
The penalties for filing a late partnership return is more than $200 per partner per month.
Yeah.
So again, the question was, when's the last day to file a tax return? You really got to have an understanding of what the person is asking.
Exactly. Which tax return are you referring to? And also the costs that will come. You talked about the penalties that you will incur for not doing it right. Many times, the idea of either doing it yourself, let me do it myself, or the idea of let me find the least expensive person, quote unquote, to do it. But if they don't have anything to lose, most likely you're gonna have a lot to lose. If you know what I mean.
Yeah. Before we go too far into the program, I'm kind of excited about talking about 2023.
Correct.
We have time for that.
Yes, definitely. That's where we're going next. So
Okay.
now that you know what to do and what not to do, what can we expect for 2023 in terms of what are some of the changes that unfortunately that are good and not so good for families at this point? When I was reading the updates, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel sorry for some people. Mm-hmm.
Well, Massachusetts has a millionaire tax.
Yeah.
If you file a tax return with more than $1 million of income, you're going to pay a higher tax on the income over $1 million.
Correct.
It goes from 5% to 9%. It's almost double the tax. But what if a married couple split the income? If it's possible, if it were investment income, they could both get under $1 million and save themselves as much as $40,000. That's a tax planning exercise.
Exactly.
The electric vehicle credit is a federal tax credit that created a lot of excitement.
Mm-hmm.
But the new 2023 credit depends on your adjusted gross income.
Mm-hmm.
It's more than $150,000 for a single filer, more than $300,000 for a married couple filing jointly. There is no electric vehicle credit. But a married couple, if one of them earns less than $150,000, they can file separately as long as the person with the lower income owns the vehicle, bought it, and get the $7,500 tax credit, which might make up for the extra taxes that filing separately could cost them.
Correct.
These are tax planning exercises. There's a home energy credit for 2023. The old home energy credit was been around for 15 years, had a $500 lifetime limit. The new 2023 credit is an annual recurring $1,200 credit limit. So if you're going to replace 10 windows and it's going to cost you $10,000, the credit is 30% of the energy efficient window purchase and installation. Why not do half the windows in October and November and get $1,200 credit for $5,000 of windows? And why not do the other half in February or March and get a $1,200 credit in 2024?
Correct.
So again, this is another reason to see your tax professional in the summer and fall when you're making purchases in doing things around the home, because the person might be able to save you quite a bit of money.
Yeah, tax consultation is very important because there are some transactions that you do, unfortunately, once it hits December 31st, you cannot reverse, or you lose out. That window of opportunity is closed. And once that closes, that's it. One of the windows of opportunity that people typically have is the retirement planning, the 401k planning that you can do throughout the year to help minimize your tax liability at the end because of the deferred compensation in terms of like deferring taxes for later. Can you talk about that? Because I know we all are concerned about our tax bill at the end of the year, but there are certain tangible things that you can do that will be a win-win for you if you do them to help you minimize your tax liability. Can you talk about that? Either a self-employed or an employee.
Yeah, it seems like a no-brainer to save for yourself and pay less in taxes. The idea is that I want to set aside money today while I'm in a 22-24% tax bracket, because when I retire, I expect to be in a 10% or 12% tax bracket. The retirement savings reduces your taxable W-2 wages. If you're in a 22% tax bracket and 5% Massachusetts tax, every $100 that you put away for retirement is $27 less in taxes. That's saving for yourself, paying less in taxes. And the investment income that your retirement plan occurs every year is going to be tax-free. So it's a tax-free investment for your retirement, because everyone's going to live to be 100 years old. And when you retire at age 60 or 65, you're going to want to spend money. You want to do things, go places. There are some people who will spend more years in retired than they spent working.
Wow.
So yes, retirement planning, whether it's a 403B, a 401k, or a SEP, even an IRA, you need to take care of yourself. The government isn't going to let you travel and go on cruises in your retirement years. Any plan now so you can celebrate later. I guess it's the old Aesop fable about the ant and the grasshopper.
Yeah, we wanted to have this conversation, and I've been saying to those who are going to be watching later, or those who perhaps are watching now, that it's very important that you understand that tax, you have to give to Caesar what's for Caesar, and to God what is for God. But at the end of the day, we as tax professionals, those who have the credentials, those who have done the work to prepare themselves to be able to do this line of work, are very protective of what we have. And in order for us to work with you, you have to be willing to work with us, do the work. It's important to understand that tax avoidance, that's what you learn when you went to school, study the law, you're a licensee, you are able to understand everything that you need to do to consultation, how to help your client, how to help a taxpayer avoid paying too much in taxes, because the truth of the matter is the law requires you to pay your fair share No more, no less, your fair share. However, tax evasion, which is a federal offense, that's not something that tax professionals will get involved in. That's why it's so important. We want to emphasize, if you this year are stressed out, you gotta start doing new things. Starting this now for you, for going forward. Keep your records, because no documentations, no deductions. Keep your records. Make sure that you do it correctly, because at the end of the day, we want you to have peace of mind. And we want you to give your tax preparer peace of mind as well. Because the worst case scenario, John, is to have a taxpayer coming to you and saying like, oh yeah, I did this. Can you take this deduction, when they have no substantiation? They don't have any documentation to prove the information, and they're expecting you to again do estimates when they should have documentation for you. So we've been here for a while now. I just want to say thank you, John, for being on the show. Can you please give us one last send off encouragement for those who are freaking out about this tax season and always nervous about taxes whenever the time comes?
Well, there's a number of things going through my mind here. One thing I want to do is put a plug for low-income tax clinics
Correct.
and the VITA and TCE program. So
Mhm.
VITA is volunteers and tax assistance. TCE is tax counseling for the elderly. They prepare tax returns for free for
Mhm.
low-income taxpayers. Low-income tax clinics provide representation services.
Mhm.
So if you have a tax issue, don't do it alone.
Correct.
I had someone come in my office a few months ago. He had called the IRS to go into a payment plan. They arranged for him to pay $590 a month. He's 70 years old, and he gets a $1,500 a month in Social Security. This program was wrong. The IRS did not help him. I got him to submit an offer in compromise to the IRS.
Mhm.
The first thing I told him to do is stop his monthly payments. And the IRS accepted a partial pay offer for a few $100s, because he didn't have the assets and the money to go into the payment agreement he went to with the IRS assistance. He was so afraid and scared to deal with the IRS, and he wanted the problem to go away. He didn't realize what he was getting himself into. So I would say, no matter who you are, there is taxpayer representation. Taxpayers have rights.
Mhm.
Taxpayers have the right to privacy, they have the right to confidentiality, they have the right to representation.
Mhm.
So whatever your tax situation is, there is someone there who's available to help you.
Mhm. Definitely, there's an income limit. That's why we are here, as those who can help those who are in a higher income bracket. But if you are low income, again, do not do it by yourself. Do not get panicked. Do not be stressed out. There's no need for that. What you need to do is associate yourself, partner up with the right tax professional, so that you can have the peace of mind that you need. But I said partner up, meaning like you doing your part and they're doing their part. The key is not to delegate all your responsibilities on somebody else, but it's for you to partner up with them and take the responsibility that you need to take, and give them an opportunity to do what they need to do correctly and within the guidelines of the law. Thank you, John. Thank you, all of you, for watching. Please do it right. We are here for you. I know John said earlier, I'm not taking any more new clients. Yeah, taking new clients is not easy, right? We were saying like it's like getting involved, the best company, right? You get a job, it's a great job, right? Great pay, but you find out that you're dealing with a not so all put together employer. guess what? Many of us will say no to that employment. It's the same thing whenever it comes to getting new a taxpayer getting new clients is always nerve-wracking because you're like, is this person gonna be responsible enough to partner up with me to do it right? And many times when you're not responsible, guess what? That's when you get managed out of our practice, right? You don't want to be managed out of somebody's practice. Sometimes you're being managed out, you don't even know you are being managed out. You think you don't want fire in them, right? So it's very important that you do it right because you must give to Caesar what's for Caesar and to God what is for God. And we want you to do it right. Thank you so much for your time. Have a great night. Thank you again, John, for your time tonight. Stay tuned next week for another great episode of Let's Talk Money with Friends. Please tag, share, make a comment, and let your friends know. This show here matters. And